It is done using waterfall method earlier, and then there were later iterative method and agile method. So anybody knows what is a waterfall method? You can speak up, unmute and speak up. Waterfall methodology. It is about project SDLC. You can call software development lifecycle or project development methodology. Okay, have you heard about waterfall methodology? Yes or no in the chat session. Oldest method used for a build software. Okay, that is correct, Aniket. So, okay, if you have not heard about this word, waterfall methodology is the predominantly that was the methodology that was used earlier days, when for the software development. So it will have a SDLC software development lifecycle. You must have you must be aware about the how softwares are developed. We have a requirement phase, we have a design phase. Okay, once you gather the requirement, you do analysis and you prepare a SRS document. Then you go with the low level design, high level design, then actual development, coding part, and testing. Then once you done coding and testing will go through like a lot of cycle iteratively until all the requirements are completed. And once you have that, you will have deployment, and after the deployment it is called as a production environment. So production environment or production, just sometimes it is used production. It will be the software would be available on the production servers and users can use it. That is called as a production. That was the earlier methodology. So this was a one second. All right. So that is a waterfall methodology of development. Then that is a this is it's a project management. So why I'm telling this perspective is like it's also developing a software, managing all aspects, how it got improved. Earlier, like when we had the requirement phase, if the project is like for let's say 2 years, okay, there used to be a requirement phase. It will take about 3 to 4 months, and so on. Okay, then the coding will start. And if project is duration is like about say like 2 years is very long term, I will take a very like relatively smaller project, 1 year project. So user will not see anything. Maybe they will show the prototypes is like a non-working components, just for getting the use and feel of the application. Other than that, until like 7 or 8 months past, client will not see any part of the project because it is in the pipeline. Okay, so then they improved upon this methodology because it had a lot of inherent problems. What kind of a problems it had? When requirement started, like user gave it about like 1 year back, and they are seeing the product now. In 1 year time, there were a lot of changes happens, and their requirement totally changes. So whatever they developed, like it was like not very relevant, or there were a lot of changes needed. So those were the difficult problems. that we used to face. Then later came the iterative method. Iterative method, we grouped the whole software into different modules, and module wise development, and it will take relatively lesser time. Let's say this whole 1 year period is divided into like 5 modules, let's say 5 or 6 modules. Every 2 months you will come up with something. That was another idea. Now, okay, 99, or if there is any legacy projects, that is different, but 99% of the project development happens using agile. Okay, agile methodology. What is the agile methodology? Agile methodology is like every day, stories are groomed. Stories requirement, those requirements are called as stories in terms of agile methodology. What is a story is, those are the user stories, what they want. Okay, what kind of a system they want, it is called as a story. And why it is called as a story? Story is a complete entity, right? When you hear a story, there is a start, there is an end, right? And there is a theme. So they create out of user requirement stories. So each story will give one functionality, complete entity, one functionality. So what they will do is, like, instead of having a larger cycle, they will have 15 days, okay, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, and some project 3 weeks. It is called as a scrum. In 3 weeks they will take up like 2 stories or 3 stories, user stories. They work on the story grooming. Story grooming is a requirement analysis. They work on the design, and they work on the coding, and they work on the testing, and they will do the production in this box of either 2 weeks or 3 weeks. At the end of the 2 weeks or the 3 weeks box, users will be presented with those 3 stories complete, and it is ready to be deployed in the production. So if it is like a 3 weeks scrum, during mid of the third week, they will show it to the users, user acceptance testing. User will see it. Okay, whatever requirement, user will see it. If there are any changes, little bit changes, there will be some time given. And at the end of the third week, 3 stories go into production. Means user can use those 3 requirement, whatever their requirement, those 3 requirement, they can use it in the production. Okay, so that is how every 3 weeks there is a some deployment. That is called a agile development methodology. And when you join the software industries, you will be working in the agile work environment, where like every person will there will be a scrum board. It's very detailed, I will not go there. Everybody is used to expected to work for 8 hours. Every day morning there will be a stand up meeting. In the stand up meeting, what will happen, it is only for stand up meeting is only for 5 to 10 minutes. For the all the team will gather there, and each member will tell what he did yesterday for the 8 hours, and what all the task he has completed. So on the board, your name would be there, and some task would be assigned on the previous day. You will say this is completed, and you will move to the completed list. And so, first thing is what you did yesterday. Second thing, you are going to tell what you are going to do today. That is today's 8 hours, which story or which task. So you will take these 3 tasks. Roughly there will be estimate, okay, how much hours it will take. You will take about 8 hours of work, and you will put it in progress. And third thing is, if you are facing any challenges, like you need access, or you are not having certain kind of a server or certain kind of a software that you require, those challenges you will tell. So that goes to the project manager. So what you did, what I did yesterday, what I'm going to do today, and what are my challenges. So these are challenges are for the project manager. So he will take the challenges. He will make sure the team is not facing any problem. So you can see the development and the management of the project, it has drastically changed, okay, from the earlier waterfall method. And now the advantage of agile method is, if there is a user requirement chain, it can be implemented in those 3 weeks. Okay, he need not wait for 2 years a project to use the complete thing. So basically what it will do is, like, instead of giving the whole product as a one unit, the whole project is divided into smaller units, and each small bits and pieces we will start giving to the user so that they can use. So that is the waterfall methodology and the agile methodology. So in last class we looked into this modern approaches. Okay, so there are three approaches: quantitative approach, system approach, and contingency approach. We will see what are those approaches. So, in case of a quantitative approach, because of its use of scientific methods for problem solving and its emphasis on establishing normative models of managerial and organizational behavior for maximizing efficiency, is considered as a descendant of the scientific management movement. So, in this quantitative, as the name suggests, right, to quantitative, you are trying to quantify certain thing, right? So this is like we can say descendant to the earlier scientific approach where they try to measure, right, how the work is done, how much time it will take. So this is a quantitative approach which will give some kind of a metrics figures for managers. Towards the beginning of this approach, operation research was the only quantitative method of analysis. OR is also called as a management science. It gained momentum during the Second World War when UK and USA were desperately trying to seek solutions to number of new complex problems in warfare. So at the beginning, it used OR, operation research, extensively. OR, for you, there is a like one elective subject in sixth semester. Operation research is a big subject. Basically what operation research deals with the logistics, like you want to move the equipments, and you have n number of sources and n number of destinations. So how you want to control the movement of the logistic examples. Simple example is scheduling of the trains, right? There are so many trains in India, or KSRTC buses, so many cities, they travel what time, how. So all those logistic you have to work using operation research, we can work it out very nicely. And earlier it was used for only management, and later during Second World War, UK and US, they tried to implement these knowledge in the troop movement or the movement of their, yeah, equipments. The interdisciplinary groups of scientists who were engaged for this purpose were known as Operation Research OR team, because of their work consisted of analyzing operations and carry out the OR related things. So there were like interdisciplinary groups, means there were scientists from all other areas, and they were working on exploring the operations research, how it can be used for the management. In later years, when the war ended, people made use of this technique in solving problems of industry and scientific research. The same OR, it was used for the industry. Just I give an example like scheduling of trains, or scheduling of the buses with multiple sources and multiple destinations. Today, OR works in approximately the following manner. A mixed team of specialists from relevant disciplines is called in to analyze the problem and propose a course of action to the management. So, in today's world, how the OR works is like we will have a mixed team. Okay, the team will have scientists from specialists from other all different areas, and they will be analyzing the problem, and according to that they will provide the solution. Okay, so the team constructs a mathematical model to simulate the problem. The model shows in a symbolic terms all the relevant factors that bear on the problem and how they are interrelated. So what it will basically what the approach is like developing some kind of a mathematical model. So to solve that particular problem, a certain mathematical model is developed, and this model is built using all the relevant factors. Means for example, there is certain mathematical model where the inputs can be like the experience of the workers, number of hours, what is the production rate, things like that. by changing the values of the variables in the model, such as increasing the cost of raw material. One of the variable is a raw material. For your model, one of the variable or the key factor is the cost of the raw material. By changing the value of the variables in the model and analyzing the different equations of the model, generally with the computer, a team can determine what effect of each change would be. Like they will develop some kind of a mathematical model, and they will change the variables, okay, and see how it will impact. And they will try not only see, it is not very easy to come up with only one model. There would be different models, okay. They try it on different models and see which one gives the better results. So this is very comparable. This whatever we are talking about here is very comparable to the machine learning models that we develop in machine learning and artificial intelligence area, where we for certain given data points, right? Like machine learning, again, it's a huge area. Basic use of machine learning is prediction. We want to predict something. We want to predict what would be the price of a certain stock, okay, based on the various factors. We develop different models and we test it. So we train the model with given data. Then when we see satisfactory results, we apply the test data and we see how it is predicting, okay. For that matter, predicting the temperature, okay, or predicting the rainfall, prediction of the various crops production in India. So there can be models for anything. Then we come up with different models, because one model may not effectively explain that particular problem. So we have to try with the different models, okay. A similar way, the earlier the scientists, they used to work on different models and tweak the variables, see the result. Eventually the OR team presents the management with a rational base for making decision. So when they have a one proper model which explains the existing problem, then what are the factors that the model is having are the factors which will help in making decisions. Suppose related to that particular problem, we come to know which factors are influencing that particular problem. So we can tweak those problems, taking certain decisions about those parameters, and then we can solve such problem. Statistical methods, a second variety of quantitative analysis, are undoubtedly more pervasive in management than operation research, partly because they are older application and partly because of their versatility. So another way is the statistical methods. So statistical methods are very powerful in terms of a quantitative analysis, and these statistical approach can be used for the management. So a few of the examples are: the best known use of a statistical method involves sampling theory. So if you must have heard when there is a mass production is happening, right? We have to do a testing, right? Suppose for example, there is a production of a toothpaste, okay, Colgate toothpaste. So it's a huge production. Do you think, is it possible to test all the packets that are coming out? Is it possible to test? No, it is not possible to test all of them. So what they do is they do the sampling. So let's say per hour, like there are like 1 lakh of toothpaste packets that are coming out. They will sample like 100, okay, randomly they will sample 100 and test those 100, and whatever the results they get for this sample, they apply it on the rest or the population. That is called a sampling theory. That is this is very popular and it is used because sometimes, not sometimes, it is always, whenever there is a huge production, it is impossible to test the every element. It is not practical way to do that, so they always use the samples. It is often inferred from the characteristic appearing in the sample what the larger universe from which the sample is taken resembles. So here is example I told, out of like 1 lakh toothpaste packets, you will take very few, and you infer whatever you understand from that sample, whatever the testing you do on that sample, you infer it to the rest of the population. Moreover, the probability theory is finding new applications to problems that are not strictly of a sampling character, that is, the problem involving the use of past experience in determining optimum policies for the future. So, uh, uh, and the probability theory is also like whatever past experiences you have, uh, based on the past experience, you can infer some of the things. Like it's like a probability theory. This is what happened in the past with these constraints. Similar thing might happen, or you can put it as a percentage. Probability of happening or this thing repeating is like a 50% or 70%, something like that. It is clear from the above description that the focus of the quantitative approach is on decision making to provide quantitative tools and techniques for making objectively rational decisions. So, whatever the approach we followed, OR or the probability statistical approach, all these are providing a tool for the management. Okay, it is giving a tool and technique for the management to make the decisions, to take the correct rational decisions. Objective rationality implies an ability and willingness to follow a reasoned, unemotional, orderly, and scientific approach in relating means with the ends and visualizing the totality of the decision environment. So, how the decision environment, it is not driven by the emotions or anything. It is mostly based on the reasons, okay, and scientific approach with a quantitative approach. This approach focuses on the manager as a decision maker. The keynote of this approach is precision and perfection, which is achieved by expressing relationship and facts in quantitative terms. So the important thing about this approach is the how you relate, okay, uh, the various factors, okay, and how you develop the model. So that is the key thing in its success. The approach has been widely used in planning and control activities where problems can be precisely identified and defined in quantitative terms. But its use is still uncommon in such areas as organizing, staffing, leading the organization, where the problems are more human than technical nature. So, where we can use this technique is wherever there is a planning or the production control related activities where you can quantify. But there are certain other areas like organizing, right? Organizing all the material resource, human resources, staffing, leading the organization. These problems are related to more about the human relations than the any quantitative variable that can be identified in such kind of areas. So staffing, it is very difficult to quantify anything, right? So even in case of a leading, how you lead the organization, again, you cannot quantify all those things. So next approach was in quantitative approach, more focus was given to find the ways in which we can quantify when we are making a decision. So we are making certain decision because of, so there will be some reasoning with numbers. The system approach, it gets a more holistic approach, right? System approach is not looking at just one particular aspect. It will take a little larger view of the problem. A common pitfall of the classical behavioral and quantitative school is that they stress one aspect of the organization at the expense of others. So we saw they focus on certain one aspect, not the all the aspects. Whereas the classical approach emphasizes the task. Okay, we saw the classical approach. It focused more on the just the task and the structure. How the structure is, it focused on these things, And behavioral approach, what it focused, it focused more on the human or the people. And the quantitative approach, it emphasized mathematical decision making. Okay, so they focused on only those areas. However, it is difficult to know which aspect is most useful and appropriate in a given situation. What is needed in one broad, detailed conceptual framework that can help a manager diagnose a problem and decide which tool or combination of tools will best do the job. So it was, all these tools were given to the manager, but for a manager it was difficult to understand uh, which tool has to be implemented in which scenario. Okay, that did not give a complete picture of the how the management should be carried out. The system approach provides him this integrated approach to management problem. So system approach will give an integrated, means it is a combined. It is like you have one approach, integrated approach, using which you will come to know how the different tools should be applied. Some important advocates of this system approach are this Chester Bernard, George Homans, okay, Philip Selznick, and Herbert Simon. The following are the key concepts of this approach. So what are this approach focuses on? Number one, a system is a set of interdependent parts. So when we call as a system, system is nothing but it is made up of the interdependent parts. So it is comprising of a parts which are interdependent on each other, that together form a unitary whole that performs some function. Okay, for example, the universe is a system of heavenly bodies that includes many subsystems of stars called galaxies, and the human body is made up of different parts such as skeleton, circulatory system, and nervous system. So what they said is that when certain entity come together, different parts, they come together and they work with each other, and they are dependent on each other, they will provide some kind of function. So example is a universe. Okay, it is comprising of all the heavenly bodies, galaxies, stars, including things like that, and our human body itself. Okay, so we know that our human body consists of various parts which work together. An organization is also a system composed of four interdependent parts, namely task, structure, people, and technology. So, system approach, they identified the organization is comprising of mainly four interdependent parts. One is a task, the actual task, and the structure, people, and technology. The task subsystem refers to the main purpose. Okay, what the organization is intends to do, that becomes the main purpose is the task. The structure refers to the formal division of the authority and responsibility, communication channels, and workflow. Means in that particular organization, how the structure is based on the authority, based on the responsibility, how the communication channels, how the workflow happens, all that becomes the a structure. And next one is the people. People subsystem refers to employees with their motives, attitudes, and values, and the informal organization. The technology subsystem refers to the tools and equipment. What are the tools, machineries, everything that forms the technology, as well as the techniques which are used by the organization to perform its task. Number two, central to the system approach is the concept of holism. Okay, so this is the one main important aspect of the system approach. That means that no part of the system can be accurately analyzed and understood apart from the whole system. So instead of looking into each and individual part separately, the system will be approached as a one whole system. Conversely, the whole system cannot be accurately perceived without understanding all its parts. So, basically, for example, quantitative approach, we focused on very only the entities which can be put in numbers. Okay, so the human relations, right, that cannot be put in this scenario. So quantitative approach did not look the problem as a whole. It looked the problem as a separate entity. So each of the earlier approaches, they looked the problems in a different parts, or you can say it's they looked into bits and pieces or the different parts of the organization. Conversely, the whole system cannot be accurately pursued without understanding all its parts. Okay, that is, without understanding all parts, we will not be able to understand the whole system. And to understand the system, we have to look into the whole system. Okay, each part bears a relation of interdependence at every other part. This means that rather than dealing separately with various parts of one organization, system approach tries to give manager a way looking at the organization as a whole. Okay, so instead of looking as a separate part, it will be looked as a whole. Means whenever we are approaching, we will approach it as a whole organization. We will not separate out any part because they are interdependent. Okay, so it tells him that to understand, for example, the operations of the research and development or manufacturing or marketing divisions of a company, he must understand the company as a whole. For the activity of any one part of the company affects the activity of every other part. So example here, like if there is a marketing or a R&D or a marketing division, to understand any of this department or the parts, he has to first understand the company as a whole. This concept is called Gestalt in the field of psychology. The above concept facilitates more effective diagnosis of complex situation and increases the likelihood of appropriate managerial actions. Perhaps the best example of the application of this concept can be found in the study of 12 restaurants in Chicago by Williams Foot White and his three associates. The employees of these restaurants were facing the a common problem, a sudden overwhelming load of orders during rush hours. So the one study that was conducted on the a restaurant, and the one biggest problem was all the employees, they used to do very well, but whenever there is a sudden load or a overwhelming load, they were not able to perform. That was the problem. That was when the waitress broke out in tears because they mixed up the orders and could not execute them. So these were the reasons. Whenever there was like a sudden rush or a overwhelming load, the waitress they mixed up the orders, like, right, they one client's order went to the other and others to the next one. That was one problem. Could not execute them in proper sequence. They couldn't do it in proper sequence. Cooks grew sentimental and walked off. Okay, because cooks, whatever the order they were getting, it was messed up. The way they were cooking, like even that was not good. Okay, that was the problem. This is a problem statement. And they could not they started working out because they could not reach their maximum capacity what they used to do. Okay, and the managers lost their temper and dismissed employees summarily because of the customers complaint. Okay, managers they lost their temper because of all this mess, and why managers were doing because of complaints from the customers. So the researchers diagnosed all the components and concluded that the real problem was the flow of information. Okay, researchers studied this problem. They understood the real problem is how the information is flowing. That is the main problem, which needed to be redesigned to make everybody's job easier. They suggested that a mechanical device spindle be installed and waitress, instead of interacting with the cooks face to face, should put their order slips in on clips on the spindle. So they created a spindle. They knew like the major problem here was the how the information was flowing from the customer to waitress to the cooks. So what they did was they avoided any communication between the one who were waiting the table and the cooks. they created one spindle, a mechanical structure where they will put those clips, okay, on the clips of that spindle. And when spindle, it goes in a order to the particular shaft, so it will go in a particular order. The spindle acted, okay, it's a queuing device, okay. So all the, whatever the orders that were received, they will definitely go in a particular, whatever the order they received, it will go in the same order when they put it on the spindle to the chef. As a queuing device, the waitresses could place their order slips on the clips as they received them, and the cook could take each of them in its turn. Thus, the order and not the waitresses waited in line. Okay, so waitresses were not waiting in the line; the orders were waiting in the line. As a visual sorting device, the cook could see if there were several orders of the same type which could be prepared together. So, because it is a visual, right? They could see, and also they could able to see like many orders, and if there is something similar, they will cook it together. So that increase their efficiency. As a record of what went wrong when a mistake occurred, corrections could be made and the blame, if necessary, be corrected apportioned. Means what? If there is any problem, it would be visible immediately and they would correct that particular problem. Had researchers limited their analysis only to the people component, this would have led them to exploring such inappropriate answers as incentive schemes, human relations training, selection procedures, time and motion studies. Okay, so what they are saying here, researchers use the system approach instead of the other approach. They saw the whole this problem as a one unit, whole this organization as a one unit, and they looked into each part. But if you had thought this is like just a people related problem, means because it is involving people, it is a people related problem, then what would have been their answer or the solutions for this problem? Incentive schemes, they would have asked to give waitresses incentive, cooks incentives, right? uh, Human relations training, some kind of a human relation training, selection procedure. So what with this example, what we understand is when this particular case study, when researchers looked, the flow of information was the problem. There was no other problems. It was not related to people. The way the information was not properly propagated, that was the root cause. So when we looked at the problem as a whole, they could able to find out this. Okay, a system can be either open or closed. An open system is one which interacts with its environment. A closed system is the one which is independent of the environment. The classicists regarded organization as a closed system. They ignore the effect of the environment. Okay, so this particular system can be open or it can be closed. Open is like which will interact with the environment, and closed, okay, it is, this system is more used in the this meaning of the word itself. Like it is a open system means it is open to the environment. Closed means it is close to environment. Okay, means open system will take the inputs from the environment. Closed system will not. So based on that, an open system is a one which interacts with the its environment, and closed system is the one which is independent of the environment. uh, the earlier management researchers, they thought the organization is a closed system. Okay, they ignored the effect of the environment. Okay, so regarding this, the open system and the closed system, we'll see it in the next class.